Today, I wanted to discuss art education, the world of being a self-taught artist, and also give you some resources that you can use if you want to keep learning about art outside of a school setting. Right off the bat, I want to discuss the finances behind art schools, and that being one of the reasons why people might not want to go or can't afford to go. Rhode Island School of Design is one of the more popular art schools that I know of, and their tuition was about $56,000 for 1 year of school. So if you're going to school there for 4 years to get a degree, you're likely going to spend $225,000 going to school there for 4 years. That's without any financial aid, scholarships, or anything, and that's also without having to pay those loans back with interest. So if you're paying loans back with interest, it's going to be even more than that. It's going to be several hundreds of thousands of dollars over a span of 10 to 30 years, however long you're having to pay those loans back. So that's one of the first reasons why someone might not be able to or not want to go to an art school. There is this stereotype that should be mentioned where you go to art school to learn how to make bad art, not how to make good art. And if you believe this, that going to art school is going to mess up your artistry and it's going to make you make art that no one wants, then you're probably not going to want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and learn how to do something that ends up not being good. I don't necessarily believe that stereotype. I think that there are specific art majors that are more likely to be challenging to someone who already has a developed style coming in. I think if you are someone that's going into fine art or studio art as a major, you're probably going to get teachers or professors that challenge you a little bit more and maybe force you to create art that's in a style or of a subject that you don't really like. Meanwhile, there are other majors that probably will encourage you a little bit more in your style and have an easier transition from where you were before you started art school to where you'll be after you graduate, like illustration. Illustration plays very heavily on an artist's own unique art style, and so does animation. So I think in that sense, it's really dependent on the program you're in, the school you're at, your own major, and even your professors on if they're going to teach you how to make, quote, bad art. I think it's also dependent on how willing you are to take those experiences and grow from them in the future. You might be made to make 20 different portrait still life drawings and absolutely hate that because it's not in your usual cartoon style. Instead, it's making you use realism. And you hate it because it's boring and it's not fun and it's not using the kinds of techniques that you might like. But later down the road, it's probably going to give you a better idea of shading and values and proportions. So it's really up to you to figure out how to use that and apply what you've learned to your style in the future. So what do you do if you're someone who doesn't want to go to art school or isn't able to afford art school, but you still want to learn and increase your education of the arts? Well, lucky for us, we are living in an age where there are tons and tons of resources out there. If money is an option and you are able to pay a little bit for some kind of teaching, there are probably art classes in your town or near you that you could take in person. A lot of the time, these can be found at Michael's. And if you don't have anything like that near you, or you're not interested in any of those classes, there are websites like Masterclass or Skillshare where all you need to do is sign up and pay their little monthly subscription fee, and you can find tons of different classes to learn from. There are also plenty of artists who make tutorials on Patreon, and if you wanted to learn from them and learn how to paint similarly or do whatever craft they do very similarly to them, you would just need to sign up for their Patreon and pay that subscription fee and then watch their videos or go through their different tutorial pictures. Now, if money is not an option at all and you cannot afford to be paying for extra things, there are still resources out there for you. It is usually free to sign up at your public library. So sign up for your public library, get a library card, and go to their art section because I assure you they will have tons and tons of books about how to make different things, how to paint, how to draw. And then there's also this wonderful platform that we are already using right now, YouTube. There are so many tutorials on YouTube. You just need to know what you want to search. If you want to learn about color theory, type in color theory. If you want to know about how to use a very specific type of color palette, do it. If you need to learn how to use Procreate, type it in. You can find so many different things on YouTube, and it's all for free. You can also request that artists that you like make tutorials about some of the things that you've seen them make before. If you do this nicely. Do not just tell them to do it, because they're probably going to get a bad taste of you if you do that. But you can request nicely and ask if they would please make a tutorial. And there's no guarantee that they will, but if they do, then you just got a free tutorial for whatever you were looking for. Just as a heads up, I do this. You can request certain tutorials from me and I will see if I can make them for you. There are also apps out there that aren't necessarily meant for educational purposes, but that I personally have found to be helpful. One of them is called I Love Hue, and it is like a color gradient game where you have to rearrange the colors to fit into a gradient. I have found that that app is very helpful when learning about how colors change when put next to other colors. So relative color, that something that looks orange next to purple could look purple next to green. If you're interested in a more structured way of learning to almost get like a formal education without actually going to a college, you can also look up what classes certain majors require and see if you can find corresponding courses on YouTube or Skillshare. This is something that I personally have done. I looked at the RISD continuing education course for natural scientific illustration, and I wrote down every single course that they had required for that certification, and I am going to be picking through and choosing ones that I think would be helpful for me. So I might not be as interested in doing like a drawing one class because of the fact that I have taken almost every art class that was possible at my high school, but I would be interested in learning botanical drawing or the artful bird and painting from nature. So I'm going to look on YouTube or Skillshare for classes that have something to do with drawing birds or drawing plants. RISD also offers portfolio day critiques and online portfolio critiques. These are free to do and are open for students that are considering going there. So if you are graduating soon or you're already in college and considering transferring, you can go to these portfolio days. You would have to look on their website to see when they are, or you can upload your portfolio of up to 12 pieces to their website, and someone from their staff will actually look through and give you critiques and criticism on how you can improve. So that is a great starting place on knowing what you might need to work on, and it will help you figure out which classes that you might want to look for online. As I said, this is free to do. They do not charge you to have a critique of your portfolio, and you do not need to have applied to go to their school in order to get this done. And it also is not saying that you will apply to go to their school after having this critique. So there's really no strings attached. All you need to do is show them your work somehow and then get your critique back. Once again, if you're wanting a more formal learning setup, and maybe you do want to spend more money, but you don't want to get a full degree and you don't want to spend $200,000 to get that kind of education, a lot of these art schools do offer continuing education courses. These are not going to be full degrees, but they might be certificate programs where you can take different classes in an area of concentration and then receive a certificate at the end of the program. I had looked at some of these programs. The one that I was most interested in was the Natural Scientific Illustration program that's at Rhode Island School of Design. It was going to be about $10,000 to do the full program, and I don't know about you, but I don't have 10 grand to drop, but some people do. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and take a look at that. They have a couple of different options, and go ahead and look at other schools too, because they probably have maybe like photography courses if you're interested in that. If all of that, looking up stuff and then comparing them to different courses on other places, sounds like too much work for you, this will probably be what you want to do if you still want a more structured system. Figure out which class that you want to go to. Google that class and put syllabus in there. It will pull up all of the syllabi for tons of different versions of that class. All you need to do is go in and it will literally tell you what projects they're working on and when. Right now, I am looking at a Drawing 3 syllabus. In the first 9 weeks, they are covering direct observation. So they're going to be drawing a hand holding an object, and then they're going to be doing a mixed media self-portrait. They also are going to be doing different visual dictionary definitions in their sketchbook, where they're going over the elements and principles of design. And looking up the syllabus, the coursework is laid out for you. It gives you the projects, and it also normally shows why you're working on that project. For example, the hand holding the object is some sort of pen study where they're studying values and shading. All that said, it is very possible to receive an art education as someone who is a self-taught artist and is not going to art school. It's also possible that if you did go to art school and you didn't really get much out of it, that you can still learn and enjoy the process of learning different art things. You just need to find the right thing to learn about. I am going to try and leave as many links to the different resources that I've talked about in the description box as possible, because I do want this to help you. I don't want this to be something that just wasted your time. That's all that I have for you today. Please, please, please let me know if this was helpful by either commenting that it was helpful or liking the video so that I can know that this did help you, and maybe I'll see about doing something like this again in the future. If you have any tutorials that you want to see from me, don't feel afraid to ask. Just ask and I'll see if I can do it. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.